What is Jungkook really hiding behind closed doors? The artistic life you were never supposed to see. Before you go any further, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to uncover more hidden layers behind your favorite stars. What you're about to read may change the way you see Jungkook forever. What is Jungkook hiding from the public eye? Why are armies uncovering cryptic traces of books, handwritten letters, wall splattered aprons, and sketchbooks hidden behind his smile? Is there a deeper world behind his fame we were never meant to see? It starts, as most secrets do, in silence. While the world watches the stage, the lights, the pyrotechnics, the $1,000 outfits, dancing in harmony, few dare to ask, what happens when the curtains close, and Jungkook becomes Jungkook again? The man behind the name, the soul beneath the spotlight, the artist whose voice we celebrate, but whose inner world remains tucked between shadows, beneath the murmur of fan chants and fading echoes of concerts. But then a glimpse, a photo, blurry, maybe unintentional, showing a half-read novel, resting beside a steaming bowl of homemade stew. A tweet quickly deleted. Speaking of dreams Jungkook once wrote down as a child, a short life where he paused mid-sentence, glancing at something off camera, a canvas, a smear of green, orange, maybe emotion. Was it just a coincidence or a hint? Is Jungkook quietly living a second life, one of ink, food, colors, and quiet thought? For those who dare to look deeper, the clues are everywhere, scattered like breadcrumbs, leading into the forest of his true self. And now, for the first time, those trails come together. What we've found is not a scandal or a conspiracy, but something more human, more breathtaking. A hidden life made of pages, pans, and paint. In the quiet corners of his home, far from the blinding world stage, Jungkook has built a sanctuary. Here, he is not an idol. He is a reader, a writer, a cook, a painter, a dreamer who dares to live many lives when no one is watching. And maybe, just maybe, he's been hoping that someone would one day notice. Let us begin in the dim hours of dawn, where Jungkook's day often begins incomplete. Stillness, long before stylists arrive or producers send schedules. It's in this golden quiet that he sits beside the window, coffee steaming, as his fingers trace the spine of a weathered novel. Not because it's required, not because it's fashionable, but because within stories, he finds himself. From Haruki Murakami to obscure poetry collections in both Korean and English, Jungkook's shelves are not ornaments, they're maps. They hold metaphors he once underlined at 3 a.m. Character quotes he murmured aloud as if trying them on for size. One book, a tattered copy of The Little Prince, has pages folded and scribbled with his own thoughts. Was he the lonely prince, or the fox that longed to be tamed? Some say he reads to escape, but what if he reads to remember? Behind those brown eyes, deeper than any camera lens can capture, stories swirl, and sometimes they beg to come out. That is where the writing begins. What would you do if you found Jungkook's journal? Not the polished interviews or posted captions, but the raw, unfiltered scrawls of emotion he locks away in leather-bound notebooks. Would you read? Would you dare? Rumors whispered by staffers, never confirmed, but never denied, tell of hotel rooms littered with pages, torn and rewritten, poems, short stories, even letters never sent. To whom? To the fans. To someone from his past. To himself? Once, during a live stream, he paused when asked about his favorite lyric he'd ever written. He looked away, swallowed, and said, "There's one I never shared. It wasn't ready. Maybe it never will be." What song was he talking about? That night, fans zoomed in on the notebook glimpsed beside his bed, the edge of a phrase visible. The silence you left behind still sings to me. A heartbreak, a memory, or a moment of vulnerability so personal it couldn't be wrapped in melody. Jungkook's words, when not performed, when not filtered, carry a weight that feels like confession. He isn't just a singer. He's a storyteller with stories he's afraid to tell. Then there is the kitchen. Few know the true depth of Jungkook's love for cooking. To most, it's a cute hobby, something he playfully does for the camera, feeding his hyungs, smiling shyly when complimented. But what happens when the cameras are off? In the soft rhythm of knives slicing vegetables, in the steam curling around garlic and soy sauce, Jungkook finds calm. Not long ago, an anonymous staff member described a moment few fans have ever heard. He was cooking late at night, After rehearsal, alone, I asked him why. He said, "When I cook, I feel like I'm creating something I can control, something good that disappears but leaves warmth. It's poetic, painful, revealing." He has taken lessons, they say, private culinary classes in Italy, not for content, not for fan service, for himself. He dreams of owning a quiet restaurant someday, a place with no cameras, where he cooks and sings to no one. Could this be his endgame? A future not in music, not in fame, but in feeding others through flavor, love, and peace. And when we look back on his broadcasts, the ones where he quietly made ramen, where he got flustered over how much seasoning to use, were those really just playful moments? Or was he trying to tell us, this is who I really am? But what about the canvas? Some fans spotted it, once, barely there, a flash behind his shoulder during a live, a blank canvas on an easel, a brush held loosely in his hand, paint streaking the cuff of his hoodie. He never addressed it, he never had to, because days later, a private exhibit in Seoul displayed anonymous artworks, one, signed only with JK initials, scrawled into a corner in a style unmistakably his, showed a stormy ocean with a single black bird above it. The description read, "Freedom above the chaos." Was it his? The clues say yes. Friends have spoken of how he paints in silence, often turning off his phone and locking himself away for hours. It's not about skill, it's about emotion. And if you look at his fingers in recent photos, there are sometimes traces of color beneath his nails. Not makeup, not mistake. Remnants of a hidden life. What is he painting? And why? Some say it's his way of expressing what words can't. A cry, a confession, a celebration. Each stroke a chapter never spoken. Each hue a truth too delicate to sing. And in the silence of paint drying, maybe Jungkook finds the voice the world never lets him use. So now, knowing all of this, what do we do with it? Do we ignore it? Satisfied with only the version of Jungkook that sings and smiles on stage? Or do we reach deeper into the quieter, more fragile parts of his world? Because somewhere behind that perfected image is a man with unread books, unsent letters, uncooked recipes, and unfinished paintings. The story doesn't end with just pages and pans. The deeper you look, the more Jungkook reveals himself not with words, but with details most would overlook. There was a moment, fleeting, unscripted, during one of his casual live streams. The screen flickered as he adjusted the camera, and for just a second, viewers saw something unexpected, a wall filled with pinned sketches, color samples, fragments of lyrics, and even a photograph of a sunset, torn at the edge. It wasn't a decorative set. It wasn't promotional. It was something raw, something real. Was it a creative mood board, a planning space for an untold story, or a vision Jungkook's been nurturing quietly, waiting for the world to understand? ARMEs, ever watchful, began to piece together similar scenes across months of content. The same color palette reappeared in his paintings. The same phrases surfaced in live comments or song demas. The threads were there connecting his paintings to his poems, his dishes to his lyrics, his reading choices to his own life questions. Could it be that Jungkook isn't living for separate passions, reading, writing, painting, and cooking, but instead, one large, interconnected expression of himself? That thought alone changes everything. Let's go back in time, long before the stadiums and the screaming fans. There was a child in Bizen who scribbled cartoons in the margins of his school books. A boy who, according to teachers, often got lost in daydreams and would draw quietly rather than speak. His notebooks weren't just filled with schoolwork, but comic characters, imagined lyrics, and journal entries about things he couldn't say out loud. He once told an interviewer, "Years ago, I had a hard time expressing myself, so I drew, or I stayed quiet." It makes you wonder, was Jungkook always destined to become a star? Or was he an artist who happened to sing well enough to be noticed? This question lingers, especially when you notice that even during his most high-energy performances, there's always a moment where he seems to disappear inward, a pause, a breath, a flicker of something else behind his smile, as if he's remembering something the rest of us have forgotten. During the pandemic, when the world slowed down, Jungkook disappeared for a while from social media, from the press, and when he came back, something was different. His eyes looked softer, his voice more intimate, and his hobbies. Suddenly he was sharing pictures of homemade meals, recommending books, speaking about late-night painting sessions as casually As others talk about their weekend plans, he cooked not just to eat, but to heal. He painted not for praise, but for peace. He wrote not for a comeback, but for clarity. In isolation, many people found themselves. Jungkook may have, too,